The courtroom was packed to the walls. Reporters lined the aisles. Microphones stretched forward like hungry vultures. Flashlights flickered. Cameras clicked endlessly. The air was charged with curiosity and chaos. Everyone wanted to witness the trial of the man whose cello spoke like a soul in pain, Hauser, the world's most beloved cellist, now standing accused not of breaking records, but of breaking hearts. The heavy wooden doors creaked open. Silence swept across the room like a wave. Judge Judy entered, her black robe flowing behind her. Her expression unreadable, calm, sharp and commanding. Her heels echoed against the marble floor, each step a signal that justice was entering the stage. The moment she sat down, her gaze lifted toward the man who stood by the defendant's bench, Hauser. He was dressed simply in a black suit, his hair slightly undone as if he had just left a rehearsal. His cello case stood beside him like an old friend. Silent, loyal, untouched, Judge Judy studied him for a long moment. Her voice, though soft at first, carried the power of thunder. "Mr. Hauser," she began, "I'll admit something before we start. I'm one of your admirers. Your music is extraordinary. The world calls you a man of emotion, of passion, of art." She leaned forward, her tone sharpening like a blade. "But today this isn't a concert hall. This is a courtroom, and the cello, no matter how beautifully it sings, will not save you here." The crowd stirred, a few chuckles breaking the silence. Hauser lifted his chin slightly, calm and respectful. "Your Honor," he said in his gentle European accent, "I understand. I never perform to escape truth. I only ever play from the heart." Judge Judy's eyes didn't blink. "Then today, Mr. Hauser," she replied, her words deliberate, "we'll find out how many hearts you've played." Gasps rippled across the courtroom. The clerk, with trembling hands, began to read the case aloud. Case number 901, Maria Visa, Giulia Cello, and Bandetta versus Mr. Hauser. Allegations include emotional manipulation, false promises of affection, and psychological distress. The courtroom erupted into whispers. 3 women stood side by side, their faces tense and filled with emotion, pain, anger, heartbreak. Each carried a folder filled with letters, photos, and evidence. One reporter whispered, 3 lovers, 1 man. This is going to make history." Hauser's eyes lowered. His fingers brushed against his cello case, as if seeking comfort in the one thing that had never betrayed him. Judge Judy's gavel struck the desk with a sharp crack. "Order in the court." When silence returned, she looked at the 3 women, then back to Hauser. "You've each come here seeking justice. And you," she pointed toward him, "have come here seeking truth. Let's see which one survives the music." She paused, her gaze piercing through the air like lightning. "Ladies and gentlemen," she declared, "this is not a concert of love. This is the concert of truth." The lights above seemed to dim. The cameras focused, and as the tension built like the first note of a symphony, Judge Judy leaned back in her chair and said coldly, "Proceed." The case had begun, and so had the most dramatic performance of Hauser's life. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and looked down at the file. "All right," she said firmly. "Let's start with the first plaintiff, Mrs. Maria Visa. Step forward." The courtroom grew still. Maria stood slowly, her heels echoing softly against the marble floor. She was beautiful, elegant, but her eyes told a different story. They were filled with exhaustion, like someone who had cried too long and too often. She clutched a thick folder of photos, letters, and receipts and the pieces of a love she once believed in. Judge Judy motioned toward her. "Go ahead, Mrs. Visa. Tell me, what happened between you and Mr. Hauser?" Maria took a deep breath. Her voice trembled at first, but emotion gave her strength. "Your Honor," she began softly, "I met Mr. Hauser 3 years ago during his European Symphony tour. I was working at a hotel in Vienna, helping with event coordination."
He came in one evening with his cello and this warm smile.
"The kind of smile that could melt everything inside you." She paused, her eyes glancing at Hauser for a moment, but he didn't look up. "He asked me for directions, and that's how it started. We talked about music, about life, about love. Within weeks, I was traveling with him. He told me I was his muse and that his next album would be about me." Gasps spread through the audience. Judge Judy's pen tapped against the table. "So you say you were romantically involved?" Maria nodded. Yes, deeply. He'd call me every night from different cities. We'd write letters. He even promised to take me to Croatia to meet his family. I believed him, Your Honor. I believed every word. Her voice cracked as she opened the folder. Inside were photos of Hauser and her together in Italy, in Paris, in front of a concert stage. In one photo, he was holding her hand with his cello resting beside them. Judge Judy leaned forward. Mr. Hauser, are these photos real? Hauser nodded quietly. Yes, Your Honor, but... Let her finish, Judy cut him off sharply. Maria continued, now with tears in her eyes. I supported him. When he lost his wallet in Rome, I paid for his hotel. When he needed a new bow for his cello, I gave him money. It wasn't about the money, and it was love. I wanted to see him happy. I believed we were building a future. She looked down, her voice breaking. But then one morning I woke up and he was gone. No message, no goodbye. Just silence. I tried calling him. Nothing. A week later I saw a post online. He was in Venice with another woman. The audience gasped. Judge Judy's eyebrow arched. Another woman? Yes, Maria whispered. Her name was Julia. The same woman sitting right here beside me. The room filled with whispers. Julia's jaw tightened, but she didn't look at Maria. Judge Judy raised her gavel slightly. Quiet in the courtroom. Then she turned to Hauser. Mr. Hauser, did you leave this woman without a word? Hauser sighed deeply, his tone calm but heavy. Your Honor, I never meant to hurt Maria. I was traveling constantly. I didn't know how to say goodbye. It was never about money or lies. She knew my heart belonged to music. Maria shook her head fiercely. No, Hauser. Don't say that. You told me I was your music, that every note was me. The courtroom fell into a painful silence. Even the reporters stopped typing. Hauser looked down at his hands, his expression unreadable. Judge Judy broke the silence. Mr. Hauser, it seems you've composed more than just songs. You've composed confusion. A ripple of laughter passed through the audience, but Judy's face remained stern. This woman gave you trust, love, and financial support. You may not have signed a contract, but hearts have terms too. Mr. Hauser, and you've clearly broken one. Hauser remained quiet, his fingers brushing the cello case beside him. Judge Judy noticed. If only that cello could talk, she said coldly. It might tell me how many times it's heard the same promise. Maria's tears fell silently onto the folder in her hands. Judge Judy's voice softened slightly. You may sit down, Mrs. Visa. Maria nodded and stepped back, her dignity still intact despite the storm inside her. As she returned to her seat, the courtroom remained frozen in tension. Judge Judy looked up from her notes. All right, she said firmly. We've heard the first movement of this symphony. Let's hear the next. Her eyes shifted toward the second woman. Miss Julia Cello, step forward. The audience leaned in. The real drama was only just beginning. The air inside the courtroom had grown thick, not with law, but with emotion. Each testimony struck like a note from a broken violin, echoing through every soul present. Judge Judy folded her arms and fixed her gaze on Hauser. Mr. Hauser, she said, her tone cool but piercing. 3 women, 3 hearts, 1 truth to find. So tell me, were they all wrong? Or are you simply too good at composing love? Hauser stood, buttoning his jacket slowly. His movements were calm, but his eyes revealed exhaustion. Not the kind that comes from lack of sleep, but from too much living. He looked at the 3 women, Maria, Julia, Bandetta, and then at the judge. Your Honor, he began softly, I never lied to anyone. I gave each of them what I give to the world, music, emotion, passion, but they mistook my melody for a promise. The audience stirred, whispering. Maria stood, tears filling her eyes. Hauser, you said love was your symphony. You said I was your final note. Hauser looked down. And you were, and for that moment. Julia scoffed bitterly. For that moment? You played me like your cello. You made me believe I was the only rhythm in your world. Bandetta crossed her arms, her voice colder. He didn't play us, he played himself. A man who loves love more than he can love anyone. Judge Judy raised her hand for silence. That's quite a statement, Miss Bandetta. Mr. Hauser, do you agree? Hauser took a breath. Yes, I love itself. Maybe too much, but I never promised eternity to anyone. I only promised honesty in the feeling of the moment. Judge Judy leaned forward. And what about the aftermath? The pain, the confusion, the heartbreak. Are those just notes in your performance too? Hauser met her eyes. Pain is part of music, Your Honor. Every note of love ends in silence. unless you keep playing." The courtroom fell silent. Even Judy didn't speak for a moment. She stared at him, part judge, part human, caught between admiration and disbelief. Then she finally said, "You know, Mr. Hauser, you might be the first man who turned heartbreak into an art form." Hauser gave a sad smile. "And the last, I hope." The gavel echoed once, not as a judgment but as a pause. The melody of truth was still unfolding. The courtroom had gone silent, the kind of silence that trembles. Every face turned toward Judge Judy as she adjusted her glasses, her eyes narrowing at Hauser. The warmth in her earlier admiration had cooled. What remained was the sharp edge of justice. "Mr. Hauser," she began slowly, "you speak of love as if it's a song. Beautiful, temporary, untouchable. But this isn't a stage. This is a court of truth. So let's strip away the poetry and talk about what you really did." Hauser's lips curved faintly. "With all respect, Your Honor, love is truth. I never wrote false lyrics, and I only played the notes I felt." Judge Judy leaned forward, voice low but cutting. "And when the music stopped, did you ever look back to see the ruins you left behind? Or were you too busy tuning your next cello?" The audience gasped softly. Maria buried her face in her hands. Julia stared down. Vendetta watched coldly, her jaw tight. Hauser swallowed hard. "Your Honor, I didn't plan for anyone to get hurt. I live through emotion. Every city, every stage, people see me, they feel me. But when the lights go out, I go back to silence. I don't know how to live in the ordinary." Judge Judy tilted her head. "So what you're saying is, you're addicted to feeling loved, not to loving." Hauser's voice cracked slightly. "Maybe that's true. But when I play, I do love. I love deeply. In those moments, nothing else exists. I just don't know how to carry those moments into reality." She stood up, robe sweeping across the floor like a curtain in an opera. Her tone softened, not pity but understanding. "You remind me of many men who come through this courtroom, Hauser. Men who believe passion excuses pain. But passion without responsibility is just selfishness dressed in art." Hauser looked down. The audience felt the weight of her words like a slow-falling bow across strings. Judy continued, "Quieter now. You think you've been honest because you told them you love freely, but real honesty isn't what we say when we're inspired. It's what we do when the song ends." Julia raised her head, tears streaking her face. "That's all we ever wanted, Hauser. Not your music, just you." When the concert was over, Hauser's eyes glistened. "And that's the one part of me I never learned to give." Judge Judy paused, her face softening for a moment and perhaps even aching. Then firmly, "Mr. Hauser, art may forgive you. The world may adore you. But in this court, love is not a performance. It's a promise. And promises once broken carry weight." She turned toward the three women. "I will deliver my verdict soon. But first, I want you all to understand something. This case isn't about who Hauser loved. It's about who he failed to love properly." The gavel struck once, echoing like a final note of a dying song. Judge Judy took a deep breath. "Court will resume after recess. When we return, I'll decide whether this man is a victim of his own passion or guilty of breaking hearts in the name of art." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Hauser sat back down, his face shadowed, not by guilt, but by the heavy silence of reflection. The next act was waiting. Would Judge Judy punish the man? Or forgive the artist? The courtroom lights dimmed slightly as the afternoon sun fell through the tall windows, painting golden streaks across Judge Judy's bench. The silence was deep, the kind that only comes before something life-changing. Everyone waited. Cameras were fixed. Pens ready. Hauser sat motionless, his cello case beside him, his fingers resting on it like it was the only thing left that understood him. Judge Judy entered once again, her steps slow, deliberate. She sat down, adjusted her glasses, and exhaled, not as a judge, but as a woman carrying the weight of truth and empathy together. "Mr. Hauser," she began, her tone steady yet heavy, "this case has been unlike any other I've seen. Not because of fame, not because of music, but because it reminds every person in this room what love, when misunderstood, can destroy." Hauser's eyes rose, soft, vulnerable. She looked toward the three women, Maria, Julia, and Vendetta. Each stood quietly, their faces telling stories words could never fully explain. Anger, longing, disappointment, and yes, love that still hadn't died. "Maria," Judge Judy said, turning to her, "you were the melody, the first note he played. You believed his songs were written for you, not realizing he composed for the world." Maria's lips trembled. She nodded silently. Julia, Judy continued, you were his harmony, always beside him, trying to balance the chaos of his passion with calm. You tried to keep him grounded, but he flew too high to notice the earth below. Julia's eyes filled with tears. And Bandetta. Judy paused, studying her. You were his rhythm, the heartbeat of his wildest days. But when a man beats too many drums, the rhythm turns into noise. You loved him fiercely, but he mistook that fire for applause. Bandetta lowered her gaze. Then Judy turned to Hauser. Mr. Hauser, you say you love through music, that your cello speaks the words you cannot. But love isn't just sound. It's silence too. It's being there when the crowd leaves. It's answering the phone when she cries. It's truth, not performed but lived. Hauser's eyes glistened. Your Honor, he said softly, I never meant to break them. I just didn't know how to stay. Music is the only place I understand love. Judy nodded slowly. And that's your tragedy, Hauser. You've mastered every note but one, the note of commitment. The audience murmured in agreement. Cameras zoomed in on Hauser's face. Judge Judy leaned back. Legally, this is not a case of crime. It's a case of conscience. There are no contracts of love, no receipts for hearts. But there is truth, and that's what I stand for in this courtroom. She took a deep breath. I find that no monetary damages can fix what has been lost. Therefore, I dismiss the financial claim. But Mr. Hauser, she paused, her eyes locking on his. You owe these women something far more valuable than money. You owe them an apology, from the heart, not from the stage. Hauser slowly stood up. The courtroom watched as the world-famous cellist bowed his head. I'm sorry, he said quietly. To each of you. I was blind in my art and deaf in my heart. I didn't see the pain behind the applause. I will carry that silence in every song I play from now on. Judge Judy smiled faintly, not as a judge, but as someone who understood the beauty and the burden of being human. Mr. Hauser, she said softly, that's the first honest note you've ever played in this courtroom. The audience clapped gently, not out of celebration, but out of release. As Hauser turned to leave, Judy spoke one final line that echoed like a verdict written for every lover in the world. Remember this, Hauser? Fame fades, beauty fades, even music fades. But truth never does. Love without truth is just another performance. Hauser looked back, eyes glistening. Then today, Your Honor, he said, you've taught me my greatest composition. Judge Judy raised her gavel and smiled slightly. Case dismissed. Bang. The sound of the gavel echoed like the last note of a symphony. Powerful. Final, unforgettable. As Hauser walked out of the courtroom, he opened his cello case and touched the strings gently. For the first time, the music that came out wasn't for the world. It was for the 3 hearts he had broken, and the one truth he had finally learned. The end. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories from Judge Judy cases.